Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Community Corner. I'm Sergeant Will Ryder with the Aberdeen Police Department. And tonight we're going to introduce a new exciting social media platform that we're introducing on our APD network. It's powered by Facebook, the largest social media network in the world, and our intentions behind this are to have a greater reach within our Facebook community, reaching out to the public and creating a dialogue where hopefully this interaction will promote a greater understanding about some of the problems that we face and better solutions on how to tackle them. So tonight, let's go over kind of what we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about our PIO programs, who we are, what we do, and our role within the department. And we're also going to introduce our traffic safety unit corporal, and he's going to discuss some things on how to better motor and educate yourself for the upcoming summer months and the heavy traffic conditions that lie ahead. So let's talk about some recent things that have been affecting the community. On June 13th, Monday morning, we experienced a double homicide. We've made an update in this case, and we have some exciting news to announce that we have apprehended one suspect involved in this event, and that took place today. If you take a look at our Facebook page, we'll bring you up to speed on everything that's been going on with that arrest. So please check in. It's a very exciting announcement. Also, some other topics to discuss. We've been having a rash of car break-ins on our east side, and we are defining the east side as anything east of the Amtrak sector. There's been numerous car break-ins in that area, and we'd like to educate our community residents over there to just please lock your doors. There has been a rash of thefts, and many of these thefts could be stopped if people would just take the time and secure their property. So at this time, let's talk a little bit about PIOs and what we do. Basically, what our PIO group, what our role within the agency is to promote the agency message. Get that message out to you so that we can readily disseminate information in a timely, accurate fashion and keep everybody that's paying attention informed. We're most visible usually during times of crisis, and that's typically when you see us doing press releases, engaged with media, whether it be broadcast media, print media, conducting interviews, representing the agency and being the face of the agency. We prepare materials for press releases. We also work within the framework of our administration to ensure that the message that our administration wants is put out to the public at large. So at this time, I'd like to introduce some of the team members that make this happen with our PIO group. Unfortunately, Sergeant Shannon Pursoon is not here tonight. She will be accompanying us on many of these adventures. She'll be back shortly, and I can't wait for her to come out and join us. But at this time, I'm going to introduce Officer Jason Neidig, who is our webmaster and social media administrator.
Good morning, Sergeant.
Officer Neidig, how are you? If you could you just kind of give an overview of what your roles and responsibilities are as not only one, the webmaster of the agency, but also as our social media administrator?
Yeah, to our citizens, what I do is I put the press releases on the website, update the website with events that are going on, the wanted subjects we're looking for. I also administer the social media site, review comments, make postings that the department wants information to get out to you, the public. We monitor those, and it's almost a 24-hour thing. What I'd like to let the public know is that the website nor the Facebook page, Twitter page is monitored 24 hours a day. It is not. So if you do have an emergency, you need to call 911, or you can call us locally at 410-272-2121. We do not take complaints through the website, contact page, or through social media. You actually need to make that call to the police department or stop in.
Let me ask you this, Officer Neidig. You've been with the agency for many years now, and we're really responsible for starting this social media interaction. And great credit should be made to you for that. How have you seen social media change how we communicate with our public and the kind of responses that we get from our public concerning things that are going on within our community?
The public response to our social media postings, such as if we put somebody on there that we're looking forward to identify, has been great. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, social media was just a new thing to police departments. But it's real time. It's now. It's happening right now. It's, you put it on the website. website, and somebody may go home and get on the, type in www.aberdeenpolice.com. But usually if they like our page and we send a message out, they're getting an alert right away. And the responses we're getting have been great.
And I notice, and it's something that I know has been a focus from our PIO team, is to get that real-time information out when our patrol officers encounter something that could either, one, become a risky situation, like a traffic accident or some other type of natural disaster or inclement weather. We're putting those postings out fast and accurately so we can educate you, our citizen base, as to what's going on in town. But on the other side of that, when we're dealing with criminals within our community, I've seen a huge response from our viewership when we're posting individuals for lookouts and such. Could you give a greater perspective of when officers are approaching you, how this information, that dialogue back and forth between our Facebook community and our law enforcement community?
Yeah, so basically when we put a posting on that we're looking for somebody, a suspect, we're trying to ID a suspect in a case, we ask for your tips, and all tips are confidential. You can inbox us, private message us directly. That information then is disseminated to the investigating officer or officers, and they follow up with that. They don't tell the person, if they do develop a suspect, they don't tell where the information came from. We use that as a tool to identify the suspects, and a lot of people have come through and have helped a lot in identifying many suspects. I mean, I'm talking, we put a suspect on we're looking for to identify, within 5 or 10 minutes, we're receiving multiple inbox text messages, or messages, if you will, to give us information.
And if you could, if we could touch on inbox, and I know there's a certain level of our Facebook membership that may be concerned that things or topics that they discuss with us may be viewed by the public at large. And if you could elaborate further on the inbox side of how we can maintain anonymity for persons that are involved in this, that would like to provide information in an anonymous manner, and that can take place.
Yeah, when you send us a private message and it comes to our inbox in Facebook, it just comes to the public information officers. It comes to yourself, Sergeant Pursoon, and me. And we do not disseminate where the information came from. We don't even tell the investigating officer where it came from. We just simply say we received this tip from our Facebook, our Twitter, and then we provide that officer with the information. Then the officer takes that information and moves along with it.
Excellent. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with our viewers right now?
No, Sarge, again, it's just very important that people understand that we do not monitor the accounts 24 hours a day, and that if you do have a true emergency, 911 or 410-272-2121.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks, sir. Yep.
All right, and just to give you a little more depth as to what we hope to achieve here, is the Community Corner is going to be just that. Each month we're going to try to bring you topics that are real and relevant, so hopefully together we can tackle tough community problems together. So for this month, I want to segue right into Corporal Gentile, and he can come on board and explain the importance and value of safe motoring and what the impacts really can mean to you. Corporal Gentile?
Hi, Sarge. How you doing
How are you,
tonight? I'm Corporal Craig Gentile. I'm the supervisor of the traffic unit here at the Aberdeen Police Department, and I have a litany of duties. Most of you see me out on the road, traffic enforcement duties, handling crashes. Work closely with the Maryland Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office. Establish rapport with Hartford County Sheriff's, Maryland State Police, and member of the Hartford County Traffic Task Force. And the key thing is we all work together for highway safety and moving Maryland towards 0 deaths. Now, highway safety is an important thing because pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, they all need to be safe on our roadways. We've all seen that driver that zigzags in and out of traffic and, have said, oh, I wish there was a cop here. Well, hopefully we can get those drivers off of the roadways. One thing we established in Aberdeen, it started as a pilot program, it was called the Take 30 program. In October of 2014, we started Take 30 and informed the officers that traffic enforcement was not a choice but an obligation to the public. The idea behind it was to take 30 minutes out of their shift and dedicate it to traffic enforcement at selected areas. These areas were picked by the number of crashes. It was successful for the 3 months, so we ran it through all of 2015. And in 2015, we actually reduced our reportable property damage crashes from 108 down to 99, and our personal injury crashes went down from 83 to 79. Still have a lot of work to do. And that's where I kind of asked the public to help us out. Route 22, Route 40 down by the Walmart 715 Exchange, 700, 800 West Bel Air Avenue, right up by Beards Hill Road. I need you to practice safe driving. It's an easy acronym. I call it SANTA, speed, alcohol, negligence, equal traffic accidents. If we can cut down those speeds, we don't drink and drive, and when we drive, we actually pay attention to our driving. We're not on the cell phone, we're not texting, we're wearing our seatbelts, we're keeping our vehicles in proper working shape and things of that nature. The motoring public can assist us in reducing those traffic crashes.
Well, I've got a question for you. Since officers are now engaged in the Take 30 program, what kind of reception have you had from the officers, and could you highlight some of the looking beyond the contact type of occurrences that take place? This isn't just simply going out there and making a traffic stop for the sake of making a stop. There's other factors that take place where officers can use their vigilance and police presence to deter other crimes. Could you elaborate on some of the success stories that we've had?
Absolutely. We've made, and when I say we, collectively at the APD, the officers have made more than a half dozen DUI arrests. They've served more than a dozen open arrest warrants, numerous suspended drivers. These were all done on the Take 30 program. The officers are required to submit a sheet detailing what they did during their Take 30 and where it has been at. Crashes in those hot areas are decreasing because it's what we like to refer to as high visibility enforcement. The lights are on in the car, they're out there, they're maybe in their traffic vest, you know the police are out there. You don't really know whether they stopped a speeder, they stopped a drunk, they may have stopped someone for an equipment violation, but it causes the other vehicles to slow down, and people generally become aware of their driving and correct some little things. And there's also an omnipresence with that. There are, it appears, you know, the officers are out there. Crashes tend to be in the higher traveled areas, and that's where a lot of the crimes occur. And we are keeping the crime down also, and that's a hard stat to record, but we've actually had an individual that I know personally that did commit a crime, but he shoplifts a lot, but chooses not to shoplift in Aberdeen where he was a recidivist, basically because the police are constantly around one of the stores where he was going and plying his illegal trade.
And this is, again, it demonstrates the importance of the multifaceted approach that we take to crime prevention. It's not only just placing quote-unquote boots on the ground, walking foot posts. There's the traffic component, which is has shown throughout to be beneficial in deterring crime. I know we have a lot of our motorists have questions regarding some of our motor vehicle laws, which our legislature seems fit to change quite often. With regards to safety belts, could you talk about now the obligation of motor vehicle occupants as well as drivers? And I know we're not in the click it or ticket campaign right now, but we're always in a 365-day click it or ticket mode. Could you talk a little bit about how the laws have changed in regards to rear passengers and front seat passengers as well?
That's correct. Your driver, operator of the motor vehicle must be seatbelted in. The front passenger must be seatbelted in. Those are what are known as primary offenses. If you're a front seat passenger and you're not belted in, that vehicle can be pulled over and you can be issued a citation. The face value on it is at $83. Now, rear passengers are required to wear seatbelts. That is not a primary charge, but if a vehicle is stopped for, let's say, a tail light out and the rear passengers aren't belted in, those rear passengers can and most definitely will get traffic citations again at $83. It's an expensive lesson to learn, but you really can't put a price on the safety. Everyone has said to me a horror story of someone that had a seatbelt on and was trapped in a vehicle, and a friend of a friend did this, and the bottom line is seatbelts save lives. I was in a serious automobile crash where I rolled a vehicle 3 times. It was end over end. I walked away from it because I was belted in.
Okay, and another question, and this is something that I hear quite often. It's especially dealing with parents and their teenage drivers. Many times they ask, and out on patrol just during the daily course of our duties, what can we do to educate our young people? What are the pitfalls or mistakes that we commonly see our young drivers make? Could you go over some of the things? And now, also as a traffic safety, as our unit corporal, you also investigate our most serious motor vehicle accidents, doing reconstructions, etc. Could you go over some of the things that you see, having investigated numerous traffic collisions? What's some of the most common mistakes drivers are making?
Well, speed and overcompensating on the steering, braking too soon, braking too late, but speed is one. Of course, alcohol related, but the big thing is distractions. Whether it's distractions with passengers in the vehicle, fooling with the radio, talking on the cell phone, texting on a cell phone, not driving, not paying attention to that safe operation of the motor vehicle. When it comes to the teen drivers, the key things are overloaded vehicles. Again, the distractions, whether it's on the cell phone, driving with one hand, not controlling the vehicle, they're listening to the radio, they're singing, they're joking around with their friends, not paying attention that's on them, and suddenly the vehicle in front of them stops because a dog runs out in front or a child runs out in front, and we have a rear end collision. We had a lot of rear end collisions, and you don't want to see anyone going to the hospital. And personally, I don't want to be knocking on the door letting Mr. and Mrs. John Q. Citizen know that their son or daughter or anyone's loved one isn't going to be coming home.
Okay, and lastly, can we talk about, is there any areas right now, now I know you addressed some of the areas in Take 30 that we're aggressively enforcing to prevent motor vehicle collisions, but is there any other areas in the community right now that you're seeing a greater need for safer operation, or some things the community could do to maybe promote safer driving in certain areas of our community right now?
Absolutely. One of the biggest complaints that I receive is regarding stop signs. Do a lot of stop sign enforcement. And with stop signs, when a vehicle does not stop, proceeds through that stop sign, they'll be pulled over, and they generally say, well, I slowed down for it. And there's a huge difference between slowing down and stopping. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I'll ask them, would you prefer that I slow down issuing a citation, or would you prefer I stop issuing a citation? The California stop or the rolling stop, or what they used to refer to as a taxi stop, is not a stop. The wheels aren't stopped. You didn't stop at the stop sign. School's going to be getting out. The weather's certainly getting nicer. It's staying a lot. Daylight's lasting a lot longer. Children are out playing, and when school's out, they're going to be out playing that much more. Think back to when we were all children. We're invincible, even when we're not wearing our capes. Kids will dart out, chasing balls, chasing animals, riding their bike. run out between cars when they're playing and just creeping through a stop sign, you can come up on one of them, whereas if you had stopped, you're giving yourself that extra second. What I like to tell people is a stop sign is spell it out before you proceed. S-T-O-P, and then proceed through.
Okay, I've got a question that just came in, and again, we're inviting questions that are relevant and pertain to the topic at hand, and that's dealing with traffic safety. And I think you kind of covered this, but maybe there needs to be just a little bit more clarity on it. Stacy's asking, it's a new law that adults must be wearing a seatbelt while in the back seat, and you kind of gave the distinction between a secondary violation and a primary. Could you just again, so that everyone understands, everyone should be wearing.
Basically, the way the law is written now is the operator of the motor vehicle must have their seatbelt on, and that seatbelt coming over worn properly, not with the strap behind them. Come over the shoulder and engaged. The front passenger must have theirs on. It's what's known as a primary charge, meaning that you can be stopped for that kind of violation regardless. Now, any individual that is over the age of 16 riding in the rear compartment, whether it be a super cab, pickup truck, station wagon, regular four-door, two-door sedan, must be wearing their seatbelt. If there's 3 seatbelts in the back for 3 passengers, should be 3 passengers and 3 passengers only. If we put a 4th person back in there, they don't have a seatbelt on. And when I say that that is a secondary charge, it simply means that that charge can be placed on those rear passengers in the event that the vehicle has been stopped for another violation. The exception to that is, of course, our passengers that are under the age of 16. Children need to be in the safety seat and up into the booster seats until the age of 8. So if we have a child climbing around in the back seat, we can stop that vehicle, and the operator of the vehicle is responsible for the actions of those occupants. So they're small children, they take the seatbelt off and they want to climb over the seat. The officer sees that the vehicle can be stopped and the operator can be issued a citation.
Well, I'm glad you touched base on the child failure to be restrained. And oftentimes, I know we hear the excuses of parents that the child took it upon themselves to remove that belt and trying to lay blame on the child. And it's important to understand, as you as the adult are going to be the recipient of the fine in those instances. And you were picking up on Brandy Kelly had just asked a question specifically referencing the importance and what she sees in the community as a lack sometimes of children being properly restrained. I've got another question that just came in from Heather. Heather's asking if the stop sign on Edmond Street, that's right in the intersection of Edmond and Washington, I believe that's going to be by the Highway Holiness Church.
Correct.
If that stop sign, there must be some rumor or innuendo that that sign was put up by the church. Could you kind of explain how stop signs are designated and who has ultimately the authority for placing that kind of signage on our roadways?
Well, signage, that falls under traffic engineering. I do make recommendations to engineering, sometimes with speed limits and that. Ultimately, it works out with the DPW and the city manager. But signs that are enforceable traffic signs are not put up by third parties. They're put up by the government. And the reason that the local jurisdiction put that sign in particular up is because the vehicles needed to slow down because there had been 2 pedestrian strikes, one pedestrian on foot and one pedocyclist. Serious crashes with serious injury. When we have a section of roadway or an intersection that perhaps is just a 2-way stop and that there has been a number of serious injury crashes with it, the application process goes in to make that into a 4-way stop or to add a stop sign. Now, stop signs also will control speed to a degree because the vehicle has to stop and then reaccelerate. A lot of people will ask, well, can we get a speed hump or speed bumps put down? And that sometimes has an effect on snow removal. So that's one of the changes to the roadway that we don't like to make unless it's 100% absolutely necessary. And we go through other things. But the stop sign in particular that you're talking about at Edmond and Washington was placed there by the city of Aberdeen. And it was the result of citizens requesting it. And it was also the result of 2 serious injury accidents that occurred with pedestrians. It is close proximity to the school, and at the time that sign was put up, it's close proximity to Holly Circle. There's a lot of children that live right in that general area.
Okay, and we've got 2 questions, both from Shelley, it's Stephen Dennis and Heather Flahart. Both of them are questioning what we can do as a department with modified vehicles that are excessively loud in the communities where there's been some type of modification to the exhaust, as well as some other bright lights, the emanation of other than white lighting coming from the vehicle. Could you talk about how, I know we've had specific cases where we've dealt with these complaints, particularly Route 22, where you were able to make an enforcement action and curb that kind of motor vehicle behavior?
Well, anytime you modify a vehicle, in other words, if the lens is broken on your vehicle, it has to be replaced with a DOT, Department of Transportation, certified replacement part. That's why if you look in the owner's manual of your vehicle, you'll see that it takes a certain light bulb and it gives you the size. And they're off brands, but it's comparable to the GM or the Ford or whatever make. The reason is, in Maryland, you cannot alter the vehicle's equipment. When we talk about modified exhaust, and there's several different going out there, whether we run in a straight pipe right off and no muffler and that, the modified exhaust, the exhaust in the state of Maryland cannot exceed 85 decibels. Well, most people don't walk around with a decibel meter, so you say, what is 85 decibels? And that's pretty much the sound of a jackhammer on concrete from 50 feet away. So if the vehicle's riding and it's rattling the windows and that, the exhaust is definitely too loud. The operator of that vehicle can be pulled over and issued a safety equipment repair order, but they can also be cited for the illegal exhaust and operating with a modified exhaust making excessive noise. That's also done with glaring lights. It's also done with some of the vehicles where they've added extra lights. And one thing I would say with that is no blue lights and no red lights. The only blue lights should be on the police cars. The only red lights should be on police cars and fire apparatus, ambulances. The rear lights on your vehicle aren't really red lights. They're white lights that reflect through red reflectors. When I bring up about red reflectors, some people will have a broken reflector and they will put red tape over it. Red tape does not reflect. So sometimes that light may look pink or something along those lines. An individual does that, they can be stopped, they can be issued a citation. A lot of times I will issue a repair order. And not everyone gets tickets. Some people get warnings because we like to talk about the E's in traffic enforcement. It used to be the 3 E's, now it's 4. It's education, engineering, enforcement, and emergency medical services. Seatbelts and restraints in vehicles go towards that emergency medical services. We want people, should they be in a crash, to survive that crash. The engineering we touched on is, sign placage, maybe extra guardrails, some safety features going on, bushes are too high, things of that nature. The enforcement is just that, enforcing those laws, making the car stops, things of that nature. And the education a lot of times comes out of warnings. I'll issue warnings simply because people aren't familiar with that law. And we're not issuing a warning to embarrass them, it's to educate them so that they don't commit that type of violation again.
Thank you. And I'd like to personally thank you for taking time out of your schedule. Corporal Gentile has been going through a very monotonous, rigorous course, continuing his education in motor vehicle accident reconstruction. He made a special trip back from PG County so he could make this first session of Community Corner, and we believe the type of input and interaction that he's providing is the type of engagement that we want, that we believe can promote safer roadways within our community. I'd like to thank everybody that created the dialogue that allowed this to happen today. Many of you may have questions that you didn't ask tonight. There was a few questions we were unable to answer. Someone from our PIO staff will be responding to your questions in their entirety, one by one, at the conclusion of this. We look forward to each month bringing you a new segment with exciting installments on topics that are relevant and fresh to you. So this is going to conclude our first Community Corner. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and have a safe, great night.